Hey guys, tonight we drift somewhere damp, smoky, and suspiciously loud with chickens. Welcome to medieval Europe. You're about to wake up in a world where even a sneeze can get you cursed, and the air smells like a mix of wet hay, sweat, and someone's questionable breakfast. And honestly, you probably won't survive this, but don't worry. It'll be relaxing, sort of. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And while you're at it, tell me in the comments where you're listening from, and what time it is there. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You wake up to the sound of a rooster that doesn't care about your sleep schedule. The first thing you feel is cold. The second thing you smell is smoke and manure. Welcome to your new life in the 14th century. Congratulations. You're already itchy. The straw-stuffed mattress beneath you crunches like a pile of dry leaves. There's no blanket, just a rough wool sheet that smells faintly like the sheep it used to belong to. You sit up, bump your head on a low, soot-streaked beam, and realize your house is technically just one room. A bed in one corner, a fire pit in another, and a door that doesn't quite close. That's your entire kingdom. Outside, someone's already yelling. The village never really gets quiet. You hear dogs barking, carts creaking, and the occasional "get off my land" from the next cottage over. You peek through the wooden shutter and see the mist sitting low, curling around the thatched roofs. It looks peaceful, until a pig trots by carrying something suspiciously like a human finger. You decide not to ask. Your stomach grumbles, but the idea of food feels distant. You're not sure where breakfast will come from. You only know it'll probably involve bread so hard it could double as a weapon. There's a small pot of last night's stew, congealed into something unidentifiable. You poke it. It jiggles. You decide to skip it. You look around for water. Bad idea. There's no running water. There's no bathroom. The toilet is a wooden bucket, shared by the entire household, emptied by whoever loses the argument. Spoiler, it's always you. And when it's emptied, it doesn't go into a sewage system. It goes outside, usually into the same ditch where the chickens drink. This is the part where your modern instincts start panicking. Where's the soap? You whisper. The truth is, you're the soap now. People in medieval Europe rarely bathed. Some thought washing too often opened the pores to bad airs. Scholars still argue whether medieval folks actually believed dirt could protect against illness, or if they were just, lazy. You grab your rough linen tunic and tug it on. The collar scratches your neck like sandpaper. It's damp, because everything here is damp. The walls, the floor, even the air itself feels sticky. You pull on your shoes, made of something that used to be leather but now feels like sadness. They squelch. Outside, a neighbor waves at you, showing off his single remaining tooth like it's a badge of honor. Good morning. He croaks, even though it's definitely more mud than morning. You wave back, trying to look normal, while a chicken hops onto your shoulder like you're part of its commute. You decide to take a walk. Through the village, mostly, because staying inside feels like slow suffocation. The street is just packed dirt and garbage, a patchwork of puddles and mystery liquids. Children chase each other barefoot through the muck, laughing like it's all perfectly fine. And maybe it is, because no one here knows any better. You pass a blacksmith hammering away, sparks flying like tiny stars. He doesn't look up. He's been awake since before dawn, shaping horseshoes, plows, and weapons for whoever pays, or threatens, the most. The sound is rhythmic, hypnotic. There's something oddly comforting about how everyone just keeps going. Then you notice the smell again. That ever-present medieval perfume, a blend of smoke, dung, rotting fish, and human effort. No matter where you turn, it's there. You can't escape it. Historians once wrote that people used flowers or vinegar-soaked rags to mask odors. Imagine holding a scented rag under your nose all day just to survive your neighbor's armpit. Romantic, right? By now, the sky's lightening to a pale gray. The sun's up, but it never quite burns through the mist. You spot a group of villagers heading toward the fields. It's time for their daily labor. Men with hose slung over their shoulders, women carrying baskets. Everyone moves like they've done this every day of their lives, which they have. You follow for a bit, your boots sinking into the muddy path. In the fields, the soil clings to everything. There's no machinery, no comfort, just back-breaking repetition. You watch them swing tools in perfect rhythm. They're breath-forming white clouds in the cold air. Someone starts humming a low tune, maybe a work song. It's haunting, almost hypnotic. And for a moment, you feel like you could drift off to sleep standing there, lulled by the motion and the mud. A sudden shout breaks the calm. Someone's cart has lost a wheel. The group groans but doesn't stop. This is just another problem in a life full of them. You realize the real strength of these people isn't in muscles or tools. It's in their ability to keep going when nothing ever gets easier. Then, a thought hits you. This was normal life. No Wi-Fi, no coffee, no mattress sales every holiday weekend. Just work, dirt, and survival. And strangely, there's a quiet beauty in that simplicity. You can almost feel your modern anxieties slipping away, until a passing goose bites your ankle. You limp back toward your cottage, muttering curses under your breath that no one understands because, well, you're from the future. The sky grows brighter, and you start to notice how the village glows in the morning. Light, the smoke twisting gently above chimneys, the soft chatter of people beginning their day. It's filthy, chaotic, and weirdly peaceful. Before you step back inside, you glance toward the distant castle hill. Up there, someone's waking in clean sheets, sipping warm ale instead of dirty water. You're not sure if that's better, or just a fancier version of misery. Still, as you close the creaking door behind you, there's one comforting thought. You've survived your first medieval morning. Barely. Your stomach finally wins the argument. You're hungry desperately, dangerously hungry. But this isn't your world of cereal boxes and coffee pods. This is the 1300s, where breakfast isn't even a real meal. In fact, most peasants just don't eat until midday, but you're modern, spoiled, and seconds away from chewing on your own sleeve. So, you look around for anything remotely edible. The pot from last night's stew is still sitting by the hearth, its contents now a stiff layer of grey-brown something. You take a sniff and instantly regret it. It smells like boiled despair. Still, you poke it with a wooden spoon, hoping it might magically turn into oatmeal. It doesn't. Welcome to your first medieval breakfast, where flavor is optional and texture is always chewy. You take a bite, just one, and immediately understand why people in paintings always look so angry. It's not hunger that shapes their faces. It's this food. The stew has barley, a hint of turnip, and what might once have been meat. You're not sure. It's so salty you could preserve a whole cow with it. Your neighbor, old Thomas, wanders in uninvited, because privacy isn't really a thing yet. He slaps you on the back and says, "Fine morning, eh? God's good," while stealing a spoonful of your stew. You're too shocked to stop him. You've officially experienced medieval hospitality. For peasants, the morning meal is plain survival fuel course rye bread. Maybe a chunk of cheese if you're lucky, and beer. Yes, beer. Not the cool craft kind though. This is small beer, weak and cloudy. Safer than water because the alcohol kills some of the germs. You take a cautious sip. It's warm, flat, and tastes faintly like socks. Still, it's better than dying of dysentery, so cheers. Across the lane, the Lord's Manor is waking up. Too, but their breakfast is a whole other universe. While you gnaw on rock-solid bread, the noble family is sipping wine, eating roasted quail, and discussing who's getting excommunicated this week. The class divide is right there in the smell wafting over the field spices, butter, and freshly baked bread that you'll never touch. There's actually a historical fact that nobles in medieval England used spices like saffron and cinnamon as status symbols. They didn't need to taste good, just expensive. Imagine flexing your wealth with a handful of nutmeg while peasants eat boiled cabbage. You finish your sad meal and wipe your hands on your tunic because napkins don't exist. Outside, the village buzzes with movement. Women fetching water. Kids chasing geese. Someone shouting about a missing chicken. The air smells faintly of baked bread from the communal oven. The only warm, cozy scent for miles. You follow it, Because honestly, it's the closest thing to happiness you've found all morning. At the oven, there's a line of villagers waiting to bake their loaves. The oven belongs to the Lord, of course, and everyone pays to use it. You hand over your dough a grey, sticky lump that looks like it could double as glue. The baker smiles kindly, though his teeth tell you he hasn't smiled at anyone's dentist in decades. He slides your bread in with a long wooden paddle. You wait, trying to ignore the smoky air and the heat. There's something timeless about it, the flicker of firelight, the murmur of voices, the crackle of wood. It's primitive but strangely calming. For a moment, it feels like the world has slowed down to match your heartbeat. While you wait, you strike up a conversation with a woman kneading dough beside you. She tells you her husband works in the fields. Her son just started as an apprentice blacksmith, and her daughter, well, her daughter died last winter from bad air. You nod, your stomach tightening. Disease is just part of life here. People die, and the village keeps going. Scholars still argue, she says, rolling her dough with surprising strength, whether it's God's will or the devil's mischief. You blink, realizing she probably didn't mean that as a scholarly debate. It's just how people think here. Still, it's your academic moment for the section, and it hits hard. Your bread comes out of the oven finally, flat, tough, and still somehow slightly raw inside. You tear off a piece, burning your fingers, and chew. It tastes okay. Earthy, smoky, and satisfying in a strange way. You realize it's not about flavor, it's about survival. Every crumb is a victory. Later, you pass by the manor kitchen, where servants rush around carrying trays of food for the Lord's breakfast. You catch a glimpse: eggs, pastries, meat pies, even fruit. A dog lounges nearby, gnawing on a bone that could feed a family of 5 you sigh. The universe really isn't fair. One of the servants glances at you. You quickly look away, pretending to admire the mud. You're not supposed to make eye contact in this world. Hierarchy rules everything, even the way you breathe. You head back toward your cottage, still chewing that impossible bread. On the way, you spot a monk traveling through the village. Robes flowing, head bowed. He's carrying a satchel of herbs and muttering prayers. Maybe he's a healer, or maybe he's just lost. You consider asking for help, but you remember that help in this era often involves leeches, bleeding, or chanting over your body. You decide against it. By the time you reach your doorstep again, the village is fully alive. Children run by with sticks. Someone's arguing about a cow, and somewhere nearby, someone's flute is wildly out of tune. It's chaotic, filthy, and somehow comforting. You sit on the wooden step, watching smoke curl up from chimneys. And you realize, this is breakfast. Not the meal, but the rhythm. The noise, the smells, the quiet acceptance that life is simple and short. Everyone here knows it. And yet, they smile, they joke. They keep baking. Bread chicken wanders over and pecks your toe, demanding crumbs. You toss it a piece, and for a moment, you both share something universal: food, warmth, and a little peace in a world that never really stops. Then, as you lean back, feeling the first weak rays of sunlight on your face, you think, maybe the real miracle of the Middle Ages isn't survival. It's how people still found time to laugh between bites of terrible bread. You decide to take a walk, mostly to escape the lingering smell of your breakfast stew and the unblinking stare of that judgmental chicken. The air outside feels dense, like it's carrying centuries of smoke and gossip. The road leading through the village is more of an optimistic idea than a reality. A patchwork of mud, manure, and mystery puddles. You step carefully, though that doesn't help much when a passing cart splashes something questionable across your boots. You look down. It's brown. It's warm. You tell yourself it's probably just mud, but deep down, you know you're lying to yourself. Welcome to medieval public infrastructure, a chaotic masterpiece of filth and survival. There are no sidewalks, no sewers, no sanitation workers. The streets themselves are alive, a swirling ecosystem of animals, waste, and barefoot children who seem immune to everything. You walk past a group of pigs rummaging through refuse, their snouts buried in what was clearly last night's dinner scraps. These animals aren't just livestock. They're the original garbage collectors. People toss everything into the street's bones. Rotten vegetables, old shoes, and pigs handle the rest. Efficient, sure. Hygienic, not even a little. A dog trots by carrying a human-looking bone. You freeze. It could be from the butcher. Hopefully. The butcher himself stands nearby, hacking away at something unidentifiable. He nods at you, cheerful as can be. His apron soaked in, let's call it organic material. A woman passes carrying a bucket, stops at a window, and without hesitation, dumps its contents straight into the street. You don't ask what's in it. You just step back quickly and thank your modern reflexes. There's a reason people yelled "Gardes LO." Watch out for the water. Before tossing chamber pots from windows in later centuries right now, they just toss. You take a deep breath and instantly regret it. The smell hits you like a slap. Imagine wet hay, open wounds, spoiled fish, and 50 years of bad decisions. It's dense, almost chewable. You cough and press your sleeve to your face. Still, life bustles here. Vendors shout prices for onions and will children chase geese. And a man plays a hurdy-gurdy with surprising enthusiasm. You almost forget you're standing ankle-deep in filth. Almost. Then a group of armored riders clatters past, mud splashing in every direction. You watch villagers bow their heads as the men pass, knights, likely on their way to the castle. The sight is dramatic, gleaming metal and proud posture. But the smell follows even them. Turns out even nobility can't outrun the stench of medieval life. You start to notice how narrow the buildings are, leaning inward as if whispering secrets over the road. Wooden beams grown-up stories jutting out dangerously. Above your head, a baker's sign squeaks in the wind, painted with a loaf so ancient the paint's cracked off. Someone sneezes out a window, and you instinctively duck. Survival instinct activated. There's a fascinating historical fact here. During the Middle Ages, many towns actually tried to regulate how much upper floors could extend into the street because collapsing houses were a genuine hazard. Scholars still argue whether it was poor engineering or pure greed that made medieval builders stack homes like unsteady Jenga towers. You pass the town's well, where a line of women fills buckets. They chat softly, their laughter cutting through the morning air. One of them, noticing you, grins and says, "Don't drink from the river unless you like funerals." You chuckle awkwardly, unsure if she's joking. You peek at the river. It's brown. It gurgles suspiciously. You decide to take her word for it. You wander farther, reaching the marketplace, if you can call it that. It's more like a loud argument that occasionally involves vegetables. There are traders selling furs, iron tools, honey, and live chickens. Someone's shouting about miracle ointments guaranteed to cure everything from baldness to the plague. You're tempted, but then you remember that medicine here often involves crushed herbs, animal fat, and possibly mercury. You move on. Then you notice the sound. Not just chatter or hooves, but bells. Somewhere nearby, church bells toll, deep and slow, echoing through the fog. It's both comforting and eerie. The whole village pauses for a heartbeat, crossing themselves or bowing their heads. Faith isn't just belief here, it's the air everyone breathes, the rhythm of every day. You look up at the church steeple piercing the grey sky. It's crooked, a little ominous, but somehow beautiful. You step closer, shoes squelching through the mud, and peek inside the open doorway. The smell shifts instantly. Incense, candle wax, and damp stone. It's like stepping from chaos into a strange kind of peace. Inside, light spills through stained glass in fractured colors. A few peasants kneel, whispering prayers. A monk sweeps the floor, his movements calm and methodical. You stand quietly, letting the silence settle over you. After the sensory overload of the streets, this stillness feels like magic. Then, just as you start to relax, something small and furry scurries over your foot. You look down. Rat. Of course. Even in church, there's no escape. You're beginning to understand why the plague spread like wildfire in this era. A flicker of movement catches your eye. Someone lighting candles at the altar. Their hands trembling. The flame sputters, throwing long shadows across the stone walls. You realize how fragile everything here is. The buildings, the people, the beliefs, all held together by faith, habit, and a stubborn will to exercise. You leave quietly, stepping back into the street. The sudden brightness almost blinding. The market noise rushes back in, raw and alive. For a moment, you stop and just listen. The cries of vendors, the clatter of hooves, the laughter of children chasing a wooden hoop. Beneath all the grime and danger, there's an undeniable pulse here. You walk further toward the edge of the village, where the road turns from muck to uneven cobblestone. There's a cart stuck in the mud. Two men pushing while cursing creatively in medieval English. You offer to help, but mostly just end up covered in more mud. They thank you anyway, handing you a small chunk of cheese as gratitude. It's hard as stone, but you smile. It's the nicest thing anyone's given you all day. As you head back toward your cottage, the sun's already beginning its slow descent. The village glows golden now, smoke curling lazily from chimneys, chickens returning to their coops. For a brief moment, the filth looks almost poetic. The puddles reflect the fading light, and the sounds soften into a sleepy murmur. You realize this world, as rough as it is, has its own rhythm. It's not meant for comfort, it's meant for endurance. And you're still standing, covered in mud, probably mildly infected, but alive. That's an achievement here. A final quirky detail. A man walks by with a bundle of leeks tied to his belt like fashion accessories. Turns out, in some parts of medieval Europe, vegetables weren't just food, they were lucky charms or deodorant substitutes. You can't decide which possibility is worse. You chuckle, shake your head, and head home. The road of filth and fear fades behind you, but the memory sticks like the mud on your boots. The bells from the church still echo, faintly in your ears as you trudge back into the heart of the village. It's afternoon now, the time when the sun finally cuts through the mist, revealing everything you almost wished would stay hidden. The streets gleam with dampness, the smells are richer, and life hums with a rhythm you're finally beginning to recognize. You've seen the filth, the fields, the food, but today, you'll learn what really rules this world: power, the church, the crown, and somewhere far below them, you. A group of villagers gathers near a raised wooden platform by the church. You edge closer, curiosity outweighing common sense. A man in tattered clothes stands there, head bowed, while a stern figure in black robes reads from a scroll. The words echo, by order of His Grace and Holy Church. You stop listening after the first few lines. The accused crime? Speaking against the tithe. Translation: he complained about taxes. The punishment? A public flogging. You feel your stomach twist as the whip cracks through the air. The crowd watches silently, some in sympathy, others with grim satisfaction. Justice here is loud and physical. You turn away, the sound following you like a ghost. This is how power works here, not through quiet laws or signatures, but through fear. The church owns your soul, and the Lord owns everything else. And if you're wondering what happens when you stop by the marketplace again, where a priest now stands on a barrel, preaching about sin and repentance. His voice booms through the square: fear God, love your Lord, and honor the tithe. People nod solemnly. You can't help but notice how the same words seem to protect both church and crown at once. Clever system. He spots you in the crowd and points. You, stranger, do you pray? Every head turns. For a moment, you forget to breathe. You nod quickly and mumble something about every morning. It's not exactly a lie. You do pray, usually to Wi-Fi routers. The priest squints, then nods approvingly. Good. God sees. You exhale. Narrow escape. Later, you find yourself sitting by the village cross, a simple wooden post planted in the square. It's where people swear oaths, meet travelers, sometimes even hold trials. A young man nearby is carving initials into it, probably his way of declaring eternal love to someone who's already betrothed. You watch him work, each scrape of the knife echoing softly. There's a peace to this moment. Despite the fear, the rigid rules, the crushing hierarchy, life continues. People fall in love. They gossip. They dream. It's small, quiet rebellion against the weight of the world. As the sun lowers, the church bells ring again. Vespers, the evening prayer. Everyone pauses. Farmers in fields stop swinging their hoes. Mothers hush their babies. Even the animals seem to listen. The sound rolls over the landscape like a heartbeat. You stand there, letting it wash over you. One quirky detail catches your eye. The priest's robe hem is embroidered with tiny frogs. Not symbolic, just frogs. Maybe the seamstress was bored. Maybe it's a secret rebellion. You smile. Even here, creativity slips through the cracks of control. The last light fades as you start back toward your cottage. The sky burns orange, then purple, then deep blue. Smoke curls up from chimneys. The air filled with the scent of roasted onions and wood. For a brief moment, everything feels still. You realize that in this world, peace doesn't come from freedom, it comes from endurance. From surviving under rules you can't change, and still finding joy in the few moments that belong to you. As you close your cottage door behind you, you glance at the cross on your table, the loaf of bread, the flickering flame in the hearth. For tonight, that's enough. You wake before dawn, not because of an alarm, but because your body is done negotiating with that straw mattress. Your neck aches, your back protests, and something small and alive scurries out from under your blanket. Morning in medieval times doesn't greet you gently. It simply arrives, damp and cold, like a cat dropping a dead mouse on your chest. The embers in the hearth have died out completely. Your breath fogs the air as you sit up. Outside, the rooster hasn't even decided whether it's worth crowing yet, but someone else already has. A bell tolls in the distance. Low, rhythmic, calling the village to wake. You drag yourself to the door and open it to a grey, mist-soaked morning. The world looks half-formed, like it's still waking up too. The smell of smoke and manure floats in the air. A few villagers shuffle by, wrapped in rough cloaks, heading toward the church. You follow, partly curious, partly just desperate for warmth. Inside, the chapel is small, stone-walled, and surprisingly beautiful. Candles line the altar, flickering light over painted saints and wooden beams. The air smells of wax and incense, a blessed relief from the cottage funk. The priest is already murmuring morning prayers in Latin, a language you don't understand, but somehow still feels heavy in your chest. You kneel, or at least try to, your knees hitting the hard floor. Around you, villagers mutter responses, crossing themselves. This is how every day begins, before work, before food, before anything. Faith first, survival second. It's both comforting and claustrophobic. A historical fact drifts through your mind like a sleepy thought. In medieval Europe, the church wasn't just spiritual, it was the system. It owned nearly a third of all land in some regions. If God was king, the church was the landlord. And you were the tenant, forever behind on rent. After prayers, you linger near the door. Sunlight is starting to pierce through the mist outside, scattering gold dust through the window. An old woman beside you whispers something about the priest's sermon, something about sin, pestilence, and the importance of giving what little you have to the church. You nod politely, wondering if she realizes she's basically describing a medieval tax plan. Back outside, life resumes with mechanical rhythm. The blacksmith's hammer rings. Chickens scatter. You spot yesterday's baker hauling flour sacks. Into his shop, his face dusted white, his hands cracked from heat and work. He sees you and nods, eyes kind but tired. Everyone here looks tired. As the village wakes, so does the smell. Smoke, dung, sweat, and something faintly metallic, like blood. You make your way toward the well, hoping to wash your face. The water is freezing, so cold it shocks your skin awake. You catch your reflection, grimy, pale, and very much out of place. A little boy beside you laughs. "You look like you've seen a ghost," he says. You smile weakly. Watches, making sure. Everyone else does. You look away quickly. As you bend to lift another bundle, your mind drifts again. Scholars still argue whether the average medieval peasant worked less or more than modern people. Some say peasants had over 100 holidays a year, feast days, saint days, market days. But staring at your blistered hands, you suspect they didn't feel very festive. At noon, the church bell rings again, not for prayer this time, but to mark midday. You stop to eat. Your lunch is a hunk of bread so hard it could double as a weapon, and a bit of cheese that smells like feet that have seen war. Still, hunger makes everything taste like victory. The man beside you laughs as you gnaw at the crust. You get used to it, he says. Or you die. Either way, it's not so bad. Quirky fact. Medieval villages often softened rock hard, bred by dipping it in ale or stew. You try it, and he's right. It's not great, but it's edible. Progress. As the sun climbs higher, so does the heat. The fields shimmer, insects hum, and you feel sweat pooling under your tunic. You glance at the horizon, a line of dark clouds brewing. The reeve calls for everyone to pack up early. Storms can roll fast here, and lightning loves open fields. Back in the village, people rush to pull laundry from lines, cover carts, herd animals. You hurry home, ducking under your low doorway just as the rain starts. It's not a drizzle, it's a downpour, loud enough to drown thought. You stand by the window, watching rivulets stream down the glassless frame. The storm brings relief. And something else, the faint scent of ozone and wet soil. You sit by the fire pit, staring at the damp logs. You think about the woman from last night, her voice, her scratched face, her strange calm. You wonder if she made it home. A clap of thunder shakes the roof. You jump. Somewhere outside, a dog howls, long and mournful. The sound feels ancient, primal, the kind that reminds you just how fragile this world is. You curl up on the straw bed again, blanket around your shoulders. The rain becomes a steady lullaby, soft but endless. For a moment, it's almost peaceful. You imagine this same sound centuries later, heard by people who don't have to worry about plagues or lords or demons in the dark. People like, well, you. You smile faintly at the thought, eyes growing heavy. You've survived one more day in the medieval world. Not bad for someone who misses Wi-Fi and deodorant. The fire pops, thunder rolls, and your last waking thought drifts between centuries that maybe, just maybe, boredom was the closest thing to peace in a time like this. The rain stops sometime before dawn, but you don't notice until the first sliver of light crawls across your face. You blink, disoriented, unsure if it's morning or the afterlife. The world outside hums faintly, soft drips from rooftops, the cluck of chickens, the low murmur of life restarting after the storm. You stretch, bones cracking, and sit up slowly. You're alive. Barely, but alive. You open the door and step into the soaked village. Mist lingers low to the ground, curling around your ankles like lazy ghosts. It smells fresher now, washed clean of smoke and sweat, just for a moment. You take a deep breath, and for the first time since arriving here, you don't cough. Down the muddy lane. Villagers are already repairing what the storm tore apart. Thatched roofs, broken carts, a fence that decided to go swimming. Life here doesn't pause. It just adjusts. You help a farmer lift a fallen beam, mud squelching under your boots. He thanks you with a nod, no words needed. In a world this small, gestures speak louder than language. As the sun climbs higher, the sky shifts from grey to soft gold. The light catches on the puddles and turns them into tiny mirrors. Children splash barefoot through them, laughing. You almost smile, until one of them slips and lands face first in the mud. His mother scolds him, but even she can't help laughing after a moment. You find yourself laughing too. Maybe that's what survival looks like here. Not comfort, not safety, just the ability to laugh after the storm. You walk toward the fields, where the soil still glistens. Crops have flattened in places, but the farmers don't despair. They lift, retie, rebuild. You offer to help, and an old man hands you a tool. Careful, he says. It's older than both of us. He's joking, but only barely. The thing looks like it's seen the Roman Empire. As you dig, you catch fragments of conversation, gossip about the reeve, rumors of a new tax, whispers of a sickness 2 villages over. The words hang in the air like storm clouds, heavy with fear but softened by routine. Fear, after all, is just another part of the day here. A historical fact sneaks into your thoughts again. In medieval Europe, life expectancy hovered around 32. 40 years, but not, because everyone dropped dead at 35. Infant mortality was the real killer. If you made it past childhood, you had a decent shot at reaching old age. Still, by the standards of your world, it's terrifyingly short. You glance at the wrinkled faces around you, survivors. Every one of them, scholars still argue. Whether the medieval period was truly dark. Some say it was an age of ignorance and superstition. Others insist it was a time of quiet innovation, when cathedrals rose, languages evolved, and art bloomed in candlelit corners. Watching these people work, you start to think it was both. Brutal, yes, but also human in a way that's hard to find now. By midday, the sun burns hot again. You sit by the edge of the field, wiping sweat with your sleeve. A group of children run past chasing a hoop made from a bent stick. You can't help thinking how simple it all is. No screens, no noise, just the raw pulse of life. Then you hear it. A faint melody floating through the air. Someone's playing a flute down by the stream. The tune is simple but sweet, lilting like the breeze itself. You follow the sound and find a young man sitting on a rock, playing as if the whole world depends on it. When he sees you, he nods but doesn't stop. You sit beside him quietly. The music doesn't need translation. When he finishes, he shrugs. Helps keep the spirits away, he says. Or maybe it brings them closer. Hard to tell. You laugh softly. You're not sure which one you want. He grins. Depends on the spirit. There's that medieval humor again, half faith, half fatalism, and somehow still funny. You wander back toward the village, feeling oddly lighter. The storm, the rats, the hunger, the fear, they're all still there. But so are the songs, the laughter, the stubborn will to keep going. You realize now that you wouldn't last a day here not because it's impossible, but because it's endless. Every moment demands something: sweat, belief, endurance. There's no room for rest unless you make it yourself. As dusk creeps in again, the villagers gather by the fire pit in the square. Someone roasts what might be a rabbit, others share bread and ale. You sit among them, watching the flames dance. The same fire that frightened you last night now feels like company. The same darkness that once pressed against your door now feels soft. A woman begins to sing, a low, humming tune you recognize from the other night, the one that Traveler sang. Her voice carries through the smoke, smooth and ancient. This time, you don't feel fear. You feel calm. Safe, even. You tilt your head back and watch the stars appear. More than you've ever seen in your life. It hits you that this same sky has looked down on every generation since. The same moonlight touching your face tonight once brushed the helmets of knights, the robes of monks, the faces of lovers who never imagined your world could exist. The thought humbles you. Maybe that's the secret of history. It's not about the big moments, but these small, ordinary ones that keep repeating. You close your eyes. The fire pops. Someone laughs softly. A baby cries, then quiets. And slowly, the noise of the village becomes a lullaby. Your eyelids grow heavy again. You think of home, your bed, your screen, your perfectly normal air conditioning, and it all feels impossibly distant. Like a dream fading before morning. You smile. You've made it through the medieval day. Not gracefully, but completely. And in a world this rough, that's enough.